It was August 5, 2010. Deep beneath the sun-scorched Atacama Desert in northern Chile, the San Jose copper and gold mine was alive with the noise of drills, engines, and men at work. For the 33 miners underground, it was just another long, exhausting day. The San Jose mine was notorious for being old, unstable, and dangerous, but work was work, and these men needed the paycheck. The miners were nearly half a mile below the surface when they heard a sound no miner ever wants to hear, a deep, low rumble that seemed to come from the very bones of the earth. At first, they froze. Was it just another shift in the rock? Then the rumble grew into a deafening roar. Dust exploded through the tunnels. Lights flickered. The ground beneath them shook violently. And then, silence. They rushed to the main access ramp, their only real path to the surface, but what they saw drained the blood from their faces. A massive section of the tunnel had caved in, sealing them off completely. The air was thick with dust, and the heat was suffocating. They didn't know it yet, but 700,000 tons of rock now lay between them and daylight. At first, some thought the rescue would be quick. Mines collapse all the time, right? Surely, the company had emergency teams ready. But as hours turned into the first full day, reality began to set in. The San Jose mine didn't have proper escape routes or reinforced safety shelters. They were trapped in a small, hot chamber more than 2,000 feet underground, with limited food and water, and no contact with the outside world. The darkness began to play tricks on their minds. The air was heavy, humid, and smelled of oil and dust. The temperature was over 30 degrees Celsius 86 degrees Fahrenheit, but in the suffocating underground air, it felt much hotter. The men tried to stay calm, but fear spread through the group like wildfire. One of the senior miners, Luis Urzua, took charge. He gathered the men and told them they would ration everything: water, food, even light from their headlamps. They had no idea how long they'd be trapped. He told them bluntly, "We might be here for a long time." On the surface, rescue teams were already at work, but the situation was far worse than they imagined. The collapse was so massive that initial drilling attempts couldn't even find the miners. For all anyone knew, they might have been crushed instantly. Families gathered outside the mine's entrance, holding vigils, praying, and refusing to leave. Underground, the miners tried to keep hope alive. They told jokes. They shared stories. But deep down, every man wondered, would anyone ever find them? By the third day, the miners knew the situation was critical. Their chamber was just 50 square meters, smaller than a one-bedroom apartment, with bare rock walls and no natural ventilation. The air grew heavy, and breathing became harder with each passing hour. They had almost no food. What remained was a small stash, a few cans of tuna, some stale cookies, and powdered milk. That was it. Luis Urzua made a decision that kept them alive: each man would eat 2 tiny spoonfuls of food every 48 hours. No more. It wasn't enough to stop the hunger, far from it, but it kept their bodies barely running. They collected water dripping from the mine's cooling system, knowing it might be contaminated, but it was all they had. Every drop was precious. The miners stored it in improvised containers made from old oil cans and plastic bottles. But food and water were only part of the battle. The real enemy was the mind. In the eternal darkness, time lost all meaning. Days and nights blended together. They had no sunlight, no clocks, only the dim glow of their headlamps, which they used sparingly to save batteries. To keep themselves from going insane, the men created routines. Some prayed together. Others exercised in the small open space. They told stories about their families, their childhoods, their dreams. And they made a pact: no matter what happened, they would all survive together, or not at all. Meanwhile, on the surface, hope was fading. Weeks passed without a single sign of life. Rescuers drilled hole after hole, each one costing time and money, but all came up empty. The mountain was unstable, and any mistake could cause another collapse, killing anyone who might still be alive. Then, after 17 days underground, a miracle. A drill bit broke through the roof of the miner's chamber. The men scrambled to it, grabbing anything to make noise. They tied a note to the drill. "We are well in the shelter, the 33 of us." That single message exploded across the world. Families wept with relief. The Chilean government announced a full-scale rescue mission. And for the first time in over 2 weeks, the miners tasted hope. Through that narrow drill hole, rescuers sent down glucose gel, water, and communication lines. The men could finally talk to their families. But they were told the truth: getting them out could take months. 3, maybe 4 more months, underground. The men braced themselves for the longest wait of their lives. Once contact was made, the entire world seemed to turn toward the desert of northern Chile. News crews from every continent camped outside the mine. Engineers, drill specialists, and rescue teams arrived from the US, Canada, and other countries. The operation became a global effort, and the stakes were impossibly high. The rescue plan, called Plan B, was to drill a shaft wide enough to fit a special capsule that could bring each miner to the surface. It would have to go down over 600 meters, straight through unstable rock. One wrong move and the tunnel could collapse, trapping the men forever. Below, the miners prepared themselves. They built a small shrine from cardboard and candles, praying for strength. They kept the chamber as clean as possible, fighting infections in the damp, stale air. But there was tension, too. Arguments flared over small things. After all, 33 men were living shoulder to shoulder in darkness for weeks on end. On October 9, 2010, after 33 days of drilling, the shaft was finally complete. The rescue capsule, named Phoenix, was lowered for the first test run. The miners watched in awe as the steel cylinder descended, knowing it was their only ticket out. On October 13, the real rescue began. Florencio Avalos was chosen to go first. Strapped in, he gave a quick wave to his friends before disappearing upward into the narrow shaft. It took 15 minutes to reach the surface. When he emerged, the crowd erupted in cheers. His son ran into his arms, and the image was broadcast live to over 1 billion viewers worldwide. One by one, the miners were pulled out. Each ascent was nerve-wracking. What if the capsule jammed? What if the shaft collapsed? But hour after hour, man after man came back to daylight. After 69 days underground, the last miner, Luis Urzua, the shift foreman who had kept everyone organized, stepped out of the capsule. The rescue was complete. All 33 men had survived. The moment became a symbol of human endurance and cooperation. The Chilean flag waved proudly as rescuers, miners, and families embraced. The world had witnessed a miracle, a story where courage, engineering, and unity had beaten impossible odds. But survival came with a price. In the months and years after, many miners struggled with PTSD, nightmares, and health issues. Some found fame, others fell back into poverty. Yet all of them shared an unbreakable bond, forged in the depths of the earth, in total darkness, for 69 unforgettable days.